Hello everyone, this is Sarah Stephenson from Boys and Ghouls Film Review. I thought I might make this brief announcement before our latest episode. This will be our 200th episode, so yay! Thanks for all your support, guys! Woohoo! The roof is on fire, da 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 da, type of thing. I do hope that you guys enjoyed the last 2 years we've been with you guys. I know I've been really happy to be doing this podcast with you guys, so really excited about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and continue subscribing and liking and commenting on our upcoming episodes. So thanks for all your support and continue watching us or listening to us. So see you guys around. Hello boys and ghouls. Today we're doing our review on The Risen. And I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi guys.
And before you ask, Mike
well,
here has some...
The Risen, it's Risen. There's no T-H-E in it.
Sorry. So Mike here has something to tell you guys.
Yeah, a little bit. Now, if you are a regular listener to us, our last podcast was about the Passion of Christ. Okay? Okay. And we said we weren't going to do a religious platform on this podcast, on our podcast. However, being Easter, we thought we might just do a follow-through with another Christian-based movie before we go back to our normal topics, or normal genres. Okay?
Yeah, seeing as this is Easter Monday now.
Well, yeah, today, for us here today, we're doing it, it's Easter time. It's about a week or so later now when you're listening to it. But
yeah, and by the time this is released, it will be next month.
Well, the end of the month or something, yeah, whatever. And anyway, so we're not trying to convert the people to Christianity or soapbox or anything else. It's just that, again, this is a biblical drama movie.
And a bit of mystery too.
Mystery. Yeah, it's a bit like, you know how Dan Brown did the Da Vinci Code. He did a detective story based around the Bible. Yeah, in the Bible readings and in the current days, in the current generation. Now this is like a detective story going back 2,000 years. That's all it is. Okay, and it might give you a bit of food for thought as well. Okay. Now,
True.
Here we go. Produced by Patrick Aiello. I think that's the right pronunciation. Mickey Liddell and Peter Schliemon, I think is the right pronunciation. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Directed by Kevin Reynolds. Story by Paul Aiello. And the screenplay was by Paul Aiello and Kevin Reynolds. So so a very close shop. It was a good movie. Now a lot of religious movies can be dark and draggy. This is like an ordinary movie.
Yeah.
It's not sort of doom, gloom, sackcloth, ashes. No, it's not like that. It's a good movie. It's a good drama to watch if you like dramas. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, 20 million budget, 46 mil at box office, and actually the weekend it opened. It finished third in takings that weekend after Deadpool and Kung Fu Panda, if that's worthwhile to anybody. Well, those two good movies, they opened the same week.
Yeah, well, I imagine that would be.
Now, here we are. Actors. I won't go for everybody. There's a cast of thousands like Ben-Hur. Now, Joseph Fiennes plays Clavius Aquila Valerius Niger. That's a long name. Fred Smith would have been better, eh? Now, Tom Felton plays Lucius Tycho Ennius. Now, those of you who followed the Harry Potter movies, Tom Felton played Draco in Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, and this name was taken from...
It was not taken anywhere.
Well, that's what it says here, I read. Tom's so-and-so character was... This was also the name of the character his father played. And I like to think that maybe that his the director or the scriptwriter was inspired by using that name.
I'm sure Paul Aleo didn't go and read a Harry Potter book and say, "Oh, what a really groovy name."
Well, it sounds like a Greek or a Roman name.
It is. It's a very common name, like Fred, Peter, Michael, Sarah. It's just a name, okay, from that period. It had nothing to do with let's borrow the name. No. Mm-hmm. Now Cliff Curtis plays Yeshua, or Jesus to everybody else. He's the Messiah. Now he portrays the role quite good. He's not over the top, sickly sweet or anything else. He's just playing a normal role.
Yeah, apart from the Passion of Christ, which we did yesterday. Yeah. In our last podcast. This one is. This one's in English, but they use the proper name that's for Jesus' name.
But the thing is, he's in it, but he's not. It's not about him. It's about the centurion who's trying to put the myth to rest.
Yeah.
So it's we're following a centurion doing a job for Pilate. There you go.
Yeah, he's assigned to it, and it's through flashbacks in this one.
Yeah, a few flashbacks in there, but it's just more of it's a detective drama. How's that? Pretty good?
I would agree.
Okay.
Only with, of course, it remains unsolved, according to him, I think.
Well, I think he wasn't. I think he knew what was going on, but nobody else did.
Yeah. He's left.
Princess Pilate wasn't sure. Mrs. Pilate knew.
Yeah. Anyway, but of course the priests, they're, not to be disrespectful to Jews, but they become very bent in this movie. Like, they try to discriminate the facts, if there were.
They bend the facts, but the point is, it's like politicians today. They will bend the truth to meet what they want it to be. Mm-hmm. They're no different. We haven't changed in thousands of years. Why would they be different?
Exactly so. So, distorting the facts, that's the word.
They distort the facts, manipulate them, bend it, withhold information, make up fake information. They do it now. Mm-hmm. So, they weren't any different to us. We want to do something. Let's serve it up in a way that the people will agree with us.
Yeah. So it's been happening for many years. The whole distorting thing throughout politicians and other stuff
throughout the world.
Yeah. So do you want me to begin the story?
Well, you might as well.
So the story begins. A man is wandering in the wilderness. He comes across a nice house owned by a nice man, and he is offered to come in and have a bit of food. And we discover that he used to be a centurion soldier named, what's his name?
Clavius.
Clavius.
Just say Clavius, yeah.
He was a captain in the army, and the poor man knows his ring on his finger. That's the centurion's ring.
And he sits down there, has a bit of meal and something to drink, and a bit of shelter and rest, and he tells him his story while he's wandering around. Yeah. And then it goes retro.
We flash back to when he's fighting a rebellion led by Barabbas. You may remember him as the guy who was able to walk away from being executed, and Jesus took his place.
And that wasn't a bad movie. I might do Barabbas one day.
One day. We'll think about it.
I might do a couple of sword and sandals for you later on.
Yeah. Of course, Barabbas and his guys lost, and he says to them as he's laying there being held down that it must be embarrassing that we have God on our side, even though I don't think God was very favorable in this particular scene.
No.
So he says that Rome will fall and all that stuff, but then Claudius takes his sword and stabs him.
Funny that.
Putting an end to Barabbas.
Funny that. In another movie I saw, Barabbas got crucified. And I think in the Bible he said he got crucified. No, mightn't have been the Bible. I can't remember. But I heard he's been killed in different ways, hey. Marvellous.
Yeah. Anyway, he goes back to Pilate, and Pilate assigns him a new job to bring order to a crucifixion that's taken place not too long ago. A few minutes ago.
Afternoon, he sent him up to Calvary, Golgotha, whatever.
Yeah.
To make sure everything was expedited properly, and the people in charge up there and the soldiers were doing the job properly.
He's also assigned to babysit Lucius too. Lucius is an apprentice. He's sort of assistant.
Or an understudy, or whatever you want to call them, okay?
Yes, so he's assigned to work under him
Anyway, they go up to Golgotha.
Yeah, and
Calvary.
As they're walking through the Jerusalem walls, we get a sort of an earthquake, and once they get to Golgotha, as you said, one of the soldiers who was there, he looks starstruck by the whole incident, and he says
Struck, not starstruck.
Not starstruck. he was struck that when Jesus died, or I'm going to say Yeshua, he said that's when the first tremor started happening.
Funny that happens all the movies.
Yeah, and these two other men, they knock they break the legs of the two other men that were with Jesus. As we've mentioned this in the last one, obviously.
Okay. The way it goes is to expedite their dying.
Yes.
If you understand the Romans' torture methods, when you put on the cross, they put you in such a way that if you want to give your feet a rest by not standing on them, you take the weight on your hands. Now your hands would have the nails through them. People say, "Oh, you couldn't have a nail through your hand." Yeah, they could have been roped up there as well as a nail. Okay,
yeah.
We're not getting into this.
No.
And if you want to give your hands rest, you have to stand on your feet, which will hurt your feet. And if you actually didn't stand on your feet and you hung too low, you had difficulty in breathing. You'd almost choke yourself.
Of course,
the Romans are very clever guys.
Yeah, of course. Jesus was not given the swift pain thing, so
they didn't break his legs because he was already dead.
So they took a spear and right into his side, and we get a squirt of plasma.
Yeah.
And then, as they're about to lower the bodies into a pit that were behind the
cross a pit where they threw the dead bodies.
Yeah,
meaning the birdies to gobble up.
Then Joseph of Arimathea, you may know him from the Bible, he approaches the centurion, tells him that I've been given orders from Pilate to let him down so I could put him inside my family's tomb. And I looked it up, Mike. Yeah. You were asking me if he was a merchant, but he's actually a member of the priest's council,
okay,
but him and I think he wasn't aware of what was going down.
Actually, it's a kangaroo court at night. They only got the chosen few who wanted.
Yeah, the ones who wanted to say bad things about Jesus.
Yeah, the other guys weren't that worried about him.
Yeah. See, I think there was a few priests who liked Jesus, and they respected him.
Jesus, it's about the detective story.
Anyway, so he offers his family tomb to Mary and Jesus' family. So they start, looking after his body, and then the centurion heads home, and of course Pontius Pilate is there waiting for him, and he asks him, how did you feel when you met Jesus, even though he was already dead? And he says what he hopes for after his successful career. He asks for peace, a little retirement, a day of what's it called? The day of.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He said something about something really significant in the scene where he says a day without death.
Yeah, exactly right. He wants to retire away from all this crap.
Yeah. Yes, and this is really relevant, as you will soon find out. So back to our story.
The next
day, after a funeral that he presides over with a few of his dead soldiers,
some soldiers were killed in the uprising.
He meets up with Pilate and he tells him about the funeral, and then Pilate, who was talking to the priest, that's my idea. You should burn Jesus' body because the priests have approached him, asking him to make sure that the body doesn't disappear on them, because if you read the Bible, if you didn't,
the followers believe he's going to rise in 3 days. Yada yada yada.
Yeah, and they think
that's not a new story.
And they think that Jesus' followers are going to sneak into where he's going to be at and steal his body away and make it out that he's risen.
Hey.
But they decide to go for a different alternative. They decide to lock up the tomb and seal it with Caesar's
ropes and sealing wax and stuff, so that no one would tamper with it.
Yeah, it's the rock is really heavy, and as you will soon see, and it takes several people or more than several people to push it into place. Mm-hmm. And so two soldiers were told to keep watch for that night, and they were given no food or drink, except for one.
One of the guys had a bladder of wine with him.
Yeah, so they drink, and they got probably a little drunk. I don't know.
Tipsy, but I don't think they're that drunk.
Yeah. And then the next day we get the news, or the centurion gets the news, that Jesus' body's vanished. And we see the stone that was over the entrance has been thrown to a different part of the area. Like, it was not pushed, it was thrown.
Okay. It was not where it's supposed to be. And the ropes were burnt through.
Yeah, they were like completely severed. Like, they think it's all cut, but there's no cut marks.
No, they burnt. They actually said these were burnt through.
Yeah, see, there was no cut marks on them, so there's no way of knowing.
Moving along.
And they also noticed the wrappings that were wrapped, the special shroud we mentioned. We see it there, of course, and Mike has given me when we were watching it the other night, he explained something interesting to me that was relevant. That he says that there's no way you could see the
Okay. It was they put it over a bit like, hey, look, it was like the Shroud of Turin. Now, two things come to play here. The Shroud of Turin, you can't see. I don't believe you can see the image on it unless it's under ultraviolet light.
Yes.
In this scene, you can see the image, such as the Shroud of Turin, without ultraviolet light. Now, wait a minute. And there's, as far as I can remember, of all the studies, carbon dating, everything else, indicates that the Shroud of Turin was a fake. The material was not of the same sort of weave design would have been done 2,000 years ago, and the image, well, it couldn't have been made the way they said it was made. Yeah. So there you go. Who knows?
Yeah. So back to the story. He then goes ahead and looks in. He goes to the where the place where they had the dead bodies. Where at the where the crucifixion was, but they can't seem to find any bodies that resemble Yeshua.
Yeah. So where would they put a dead body with other dead bodies and hide it? Yeah, but they couldn't find him anywhere. They went through the whole town.
They even went to the Jewish cemetery and tried to find an unmarked grave or something.
They checked everywhere, could not find squatto.
Yeah, there were a few. The one feature that they've been looking at, they said that mostly these dead bodies have their legs broken, and there was none that had the spear in the side. Or maybe they had the spear in the side. Some of them did, some didn't. But they still couldn't identify it.
They couldn't find the right one.
They did find a body in the middle of the road, an unidentified one, and who knows how old that one is. And it does have a spear in its side, but there's no way of knowing if it was Jesus or not.
Probably not.
Probably
anyway,
not.
Moving right along.
He then also interrogates several people. So some of them say that they may have heard news of the Yeshua rising. And an old lady even says that she heard his voice and that he remarked that he loved her in a nice way. Yeah,
nice possible way,
Yeah. Even the priest who, Joseph Maraphia, he gets interrogated too, and he also says that if he knew Jesus, he would embrace you like a brother, meaning that's how he sees that Jesus is not... he's not a bad person. He would embrace anyone who and consider them brother or sister to him.
Exactly right.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, he also returns Jesus' crown, the spikes.
Oh yeah, the crown of thorns. Yeah, but that was left. Yeah, you didn't need that anymore.
Nope. Anyway, moving on. So he also interrogates two of the disciples to Jesus. What's his name? He interrogates one named Bartholomew, I think it was.
Bartholomew.
And Mary Magdalene. And Mary Magdalene was pretty an easy person to find because considering that she was...
All the soldiers knew, of course, she had been a lady of the street, if you know what I mean.
And of course, Bartholomew also tells him that in order to find the followers, you may have to arrest everyone, or everyone who's a believer. I mean, that could be that may count to the whole town, for all I know. Anyway, moving on. So
no, I wish you would.
He then gets one of the men to. He eventually pays one of the men who who may have news about maybe where the rest of the followers are hiding. And he eventually leads him to to a small part of Jerusalem, and him and his men are heavily disguised, wearing robes and stuff to make sure that they resemble the crowd, all the time carrying their swords and their other stuff. Eventually, he does find a room, and though to behold, he sees all the disciples there, and in the middle we see Yeshua.
Yeah, he's sitting there.
He's sitting there right in the middle of the group.
The centurion and smiles at him.
Yeah,
and he's shocked. He's stunned. I saw you dead the other day.
Yeah, he flashes back to the dead body, and he is dead on him. And he also his assistant approached him, saying that if he's in there, and he says, "Stand down and return to camp." Of course, he thinks that they're close and all that stuff, but he continues. But Clavius, I can't remember. Clavius tells him to stand down and return to camp. This he wants to do on his own. He then enters the room slowly, and Jesus tells him there are no enemies here. And slowly he lowers his sword, or it just drops out of his hand.
And he sits down and in awe.
Yeah, Thomas, one of the followers, Thomas arrives, and he embraces his friend Jesus, and he shows him the wounds on his hands and the spear in his side.
And Clavius is watching all this. Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah. And then he's like saying, "How?" And then the next minute we see Jesus vanish.
He disappears from the room. Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
and they're all wondering, what now? Do they go? Do they just stay in Jerusalem, or do they leave? And eventually, Mary Magdalene, who was there in that time, tells them that to return to Galilee, and there you'll see Jesus again. So they make
that's a bit of a mean walk too. I've been over there. It's a bit of a distance. Yeah. So
the disciples, they take their leave, and the centurion soldier follows them. He kind of slowly removes his armor along the way, bit by bit. He also
I think that was symbolic too.
Yeah. He also
casting off his old world.
Yeah. He also leaves a note for Pilate and some of the men, saying he's gone off to find out the
more
truth.
Investigations and stuff don't follow me.
Yeah, and he says there are two things he can't understand. One, he found the body, and two, he's seen that very same man rose from the grave. So he's still stunned and wants to get information, even if it's not for Pilate's sake, but for his own curiosity.
Thinks he's betrayed him.
Yeah. So
he puts his offside, or he gives him a field promotion. Say, okay, you're in charge now. Go look for this guy.
Yeah. So a centurion follows the disciples, and eventually they stop for the night. And when he was just a few distance away from them, he accidentally uses a sword and stabs Peter. Peter
comes up behind him some water.
He yells at him.
He doesn't walk up behind the guy for sword in hand.
Yeah, Peter yells at him, saying, "Water! I was just getting some water." And he just takes the centurion's sword and throws it into the air, and he's in pain now. You know, he's got this horrible scar on his leg.
Scar on his leg. Yeah.
Of course, the centurion follows after them, and he was offered a little bit of bread,
water.
Yeah. And they continue on, and Peter eventually does talk to the soldier, and the soldier asks him, he's risen, he's eaten, and he's disappeared again. Would this mean he can be killed again, or will he or is he invincible? And Peter doesn't understand
he said, I don't know.
Yeah, he does.
Because
they don't understand all the answers.
They don't have all the answers, no.
Yeah.
So he can't get information from them.
Yeah.
So he's got to keep going and guessing and observing and whatever,
Yeah, along the way, the soldiers finally catch up to them with a tracker, and so using his expertise, he tries to hide disciples as much as he could.
Yeah, well, he used to be a centurion. He knows a few
Yeah,
things.
so he uses a branch and gets to wipe the footprints, so they try to hide in, low to the ground.
And there's a bit of a culvert, an actual culvert in the ground, and they sneak down it and go down the side of this hill and away from where the soldiers are. Lucius
does catch up to them, and he tries to stop them, and he even quotes the line that his teacher, that the officer taught him, no quarter.
No quarter. And Clavius disarms him, and he says, no one will be dying today.
And he says also that there are no enemies here too.
Yes.
And so he was able to get the disciples away, and they soon arrive at Galilee, and they decide to go fishing. And
they were hungry. It wasn't a case, what are you going to do? Let's go fishing. No, they were hungry. They eat for a couple of days.
So they get into a boat, and as they try to cast the lines, obviously, and they didn't catch anything.
All night. Oh, what's that?
Yeah, and by the dawn, we see a figure in the distance, not the distance, on the shore, who says, "Did you catch anything?" Peter says, "No," shrugs. No, and he says, "Try the right side again."
Yeah.
And this gives Peter realization. This is might be who he is. So he wakes his men up and they cast on the line. And then somehow, with incredible force, the boat is pulled sharply to the right. And soon enough, they see thousands upon thousands of fish.
More hundreds and hundreds, probably, not thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
And Moby Dick was not in there, okay?
Yeah, and Peter approaches Jesus. A lot of the other apostles follow after him, and they embrace Yeshua.
And they have a fish dinner.
Yeah, we watch Jesus eat with his disciples, talk and stuff. We also see, in Claudius asks Bartholomew, did they always knew he would rise from the grave? And he said he would. Truth be told, we doubted it.
We doubted it,
And
it's really hard.
He also asks, why did you follow him in the first place? And then before we get an answer, we see a man who's a leper who's trying to get some fish because he's hungry, but he gets scared off by a few locals.
Yeah, let's chase him away,
Yeah, Jesus is taking one of the fish, approaches the man, and the man says, I'm unclean, you can't touch me.
And then he heals him, and Bartholomew says, that's why.
Yeah, he's amazed. He sees the man slowly turns, and we see his skin's clean.
And his face is normal again. No marks or wounds on his face. He was healed in front of the centurion. So seeing is believing.
Yeah, exactly. Soon enough, they continue walking, and Jesus and Peter have a moment of discussion where he says, how much do you love me? I won't go into details about that one, because that's for you to know and
it's in the Bible. They just had a chat about letting him sort of take over his ministry.
Yeah.
Be the leader of it,
Yeah. And then later on we see Claudius. Later that night, Clavius. Sorry, I can't really say his name properly. Clavius. He approaches Jesus that night. He's sitting there on a cliff, on a rock, and he asks him, "I wish I knew what to say." And Jesus says, "Speak your heart." And he says he can't reconcile all this stuff. So Jesus tells him to believe and try to understand God and stuff like that. And Jesus asks, "Why are you so afraid?" And he says, "Are you?" He then says something that we hear Claudius was talking about earlier with Pilate, just after he died. You're trying to find the peace, a day of without death.
Yeah.
And this is where he realizes this conversation he had with Pilate in private. So...
day without death.
Yeah, and so I think he got his answer even... Yeah, and he started...
in a funny roundabout way.
Yeah. Then we watch him kneel down and looking up to the sky, probably either starting to believe that Jesus is probably what he claims to be. Then the next morning, we see that he's gone again, Yeshua, and the apostles are yelling for him, and they see him in the distance near the sun, and he says he's going to prepare a place for them, and he will be with them always, and and all that stuff.
That's for the Bible.
And he then, in this interesting way, he shoots off to heaven.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't go on a rocket.
It looks like a rocket almost.
No, it doesn't look like a rocket.
No, not really like a rocket, sorry.
Yeah, some people, they're trying to make Scientologists is probably how they put him up, they beam him up, Scotty, or they send a shuttle down for him, whatever. No, he just went.
It was like watching, it just looked very impactful. Anyway, the disciples stand there stunned, and then later on, they're all start making their plans of, starting their ministry.
Yeah, to go to all parts of the world and spread the word and heal and blah, 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 blah.
Of course, they're assigned to go to Jerusalem to receive the special
Holy
gift.
Spirit, yeah. Now, actually, you're called them disciples all the way through this podcast. Somewhere along, they were disciples up until a point. I don't know whether they became apostles when they went back to Jerusalem. I can't remember. Somewhere along the line, they went from disciples to being apostles. You're so the anointed 11 at this point in time.
At this point, our centurion is now dressed in ordinary gear, and he's asked by Peter, "Are you going to come and fish with us?" As in,
fish for men.
Fish for men, instead of going back to what he used to do. But then again, he can't go back to what he used to anymore.
He can't be a centurion. He doesn't feel right being a preacher.
Yeah,
or
and if he does go back to
Jerusalem,
Jerusalem, it could be instant
they'll
death.
probably kill him. So,
but
he became a nomad. We don't know.
But I like to think I like to think some centurion soldiers did get preached what they saw or seen. And
but he had a job to do, and he betrayed Pilate.
Yeah,
that's a difference.
Yeah. Anyway, he then wishes Peter well, and they went their separate ways. And then we flash back to the present, where the man is hanging on to by a ear. And he then takes the centurion ring and
puts on table
and says, "Here's my payment for the food and water."
He doesn't say that. He just puts on there and he walks out the door and leaves his ring.
Yeah, before he heads out the door, he tells the peasant guy tells him, "Do you really believe?" And he says, "I believe that I can never go back to the way things were."
Yeah,
meaning
his whole life.
Yeah, meaning he
had been touched.
Yeah, he's been touched by. The
hand of God.
Yeah,
that's how good, isn't it?
Then he gets up and he leaves, and he heads off down through the desert.
Well, head off. Anyway.
The end.
Fade to black. Now,
Fade to black.
Okay. I know so many people like me saying, "Oh, Jesus stuff." Yeah, but it's history.
Yeah.
It's about a real person. Hello.
Bear in mind, guys, there was other movie and book version called Ben-Hur, and that had the crucifixion in the background in that one.
So there's a lot of a lot of it is based on history. So it is really a biblical drama, historical drama, if you will. Well, to a certain degree, because obviously this is a story around it, so it's not totally historical. But there's historical stuff in it. So it is what it is. And now, production. The film was shot in Malta and in Spain, and looks really, really good. It actually looks a bit like the Middle East, because we went to. We went on a holiday years ago. We went to Egypt, Jordan, and Israel, and it does look right. Yeah, had a good feel to it. So the location scouts, managers, whatever, did a good job in making it come to life.
Yeah. Anyway, the pilot in this one, unlike the one that we saw in Passion of the Christ, character was slightly more.
He's a harder character, more businesslike about it. He wasn't worried. He was a little bit worried about sentencing Yeshua to a crucifixion, but this is after it had been done, so it'd been settled down a bit. Said, "Well, it is what it is. I'll wash my hands of it. I don't care. That's their problem."
There were a few moments we saw, in the opening, that we saw him washing his hands in a pond, and I think that he still can't. He feels like there's blood on his hands.
I saw one movie. I don't know what it's called, where he kept washing his hands. He said the blood won't come off.
Yeah, it's just like like something out of a Shakespeare play when someone says that, will this blood be able to be removed from their hands, sort of thing.
Anyway,
let's
get away from the spiritual. Some of these people aren't the spirituals we are, and so we don't want to sort of ram it down the throat too much.
I'm just saying that there was a Shakespeare play where it dealt with a person who saw blood on their hands and they couldn't remove it no matter how hard they scrubbed their hands.
Because you are guilty. You cannot scrub guilt away. And that was a symbolic part in that. Okay, moving right along. Okay, now, excuse me, reception.
Good.
Funny. It was really weird.
Okay.
Some parts here surprised me. I didn't get a great rating from some of them, but their comments were interesting. Like Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. 53% approval rating.
50%.
You go, oh, that's not too bad. But then look at it. Risen benefits from a lighter tone than many faith-based productions, as well as a unique take on the greatest story ever told, and a terrific turn from the star Joseph Fiennes. Okay, so even the guys who didn't rate it really, really high thought it was a good movie. Yeah, it was done better than the usual stuff. Okay, Metacritic, they did about 51% out of 100. Okay, here's one. Audience polled by Cinema Score gave the film an average grade of A- on an A+ to an F scale.
Oh, that's nice.
You go, what? that came out of left field. Richard Roper from Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 2 out of 4 stars, praising the different take on the story as well as the supporting actors. But he didn't like Fiennes' performance. I don't know what he expected. It wasn't an action movie, you know.
He was
going through self-discovery mode, if you like. Yeah.
Anyway. Well, that's the whole point of the story. More of a self-discovery and more about just like the things that we try to figure out if all the facts we hear from the Bible are 100% real or not.
Yeah, so he's trying to make sense of it. So, you're going to be a bit dazed and whatever and trying to be a detective in a area he didn't really like doing. I don't think he really liked his job that much.
No, I think he was just in that. Yeah. He was just forced in that position.
Yeah, he had the job as all the riots. He didn't want to be in Jerusalem probably. Yeah, he wanted to go home to Rome probably, and just didn't like his job that much.
It makes me think of another sort of movie adaptation of this sort of thing, called The Robe, which is a bit of a more of a from another movie where it takes place in an.
Is that one with Richard Burton in it?
Yeah.
And for victim, it's Yeshua. It's all one.
Yeah, where it dealt with a soldier who was
put on a task to go and put the myth to rest.
Yeah.
But he became Christian. Anyway.
Yeah,
let's move on. We're not doing a Christian thing here, okay?
I know, but I also think that...
It's good to bring it up, but remember, some of these people aren't necessarily into as much as we are. Okay?
I know. Go on.
Okay. Now, Megan Basham of World applauded the film, writing, "It's undeniably one of the higher quality faith-based films to hit theatres in recent years, with acting, writing and production values to rival other mainstream releases."
Sweet.
Again, that's why we decided on the movie, because it's a good biblical drama. Yeah. I thought it was constant biological, but there's people walking around in it. Now, obviously this one's going to be a given. Michael Faust from the Christian Examiner gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Obviously he's a Christian. Okay, so he called it a detective-type story that is inspiring and moving.
Very cool.
Yes, Risen is historical fiction.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's largely harmonious with the gospel story. Incredibly well done and not much different from those Sunday school discussions many of us take part in from week to week.
Yeah.
So for the Christians, it's in line with the faith.
Yeah.
For those who aren't that Christian-minded or spiritually-minded, it's a damn good detective story, a good drama, okay? So I don't want to force the Christians part on you if you're not that way inclined, but for those of you who are, it's a good eye-opener.
Yeah. I did think it was pretty cool, especially how he started off as a person who only believed in the gods that the Roman guys would believe in.
Mars, he was his favourite god, wasn't it?
Yeah, the war god.
God of war, prayed to him for strength and everything else,
Yeah, and when he found out...
he left him behind.
Yeah, and he started believing in... Jesus is what he believed in.
Well, he changed from a... what do you call when you got lots of gods come out, to a monotheism faith, which is based on Jesus and God. Yeah, whatever. So he changed through the course of the movie. That's it.
Yeah.
Again, his journey. Now, here we go. We don't dwell on it too much for those who might be getting a bit annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike here mentioned a while back that back in some parts of the Bible, it did mention how some of the soldiers did believe in him, obviously.
Oh, if you must... Sorry, guys. The two piece here. Okay.
I know.
In the Bible, in the New Testament, Jesus was approached by a centurion who had a sick servant, and he said, he asked Jesus to heal his servant, even from a distance. And he believed he could because he believed in his power. So not all the centurions were nasty and horrible
like
guys.
Claudius, who...
Clavius.
No, Claudius. No, not him.
Oh, another one. Oh, another one.
Who was a centurion and lived in Rome, and he asked Peter to come to his house to help him because he lived a very bad life and he wanted a little help.
And Peter counseled him and
and he baptized him and made him the first Roman who was baptized. Yeah. It's a real thing that really happened.
Well, I believe so, because if so many hundreds of years later, Christianity became the official religion in Italy.
Yeah, of course I didn't know what happened to Claudius after that, whether he went on to preach it to his friends and family.
Well, he might have mentioned friends. But the point is that when Christianity was brought into Italy, they didn't get rid of the pagan religion. They had the Christian religion and pagan religions running side by side, and to work things out better, they used the pagan celebration days to also line up with the celebration days that the Christians wanted to use. So Christmas Day was a pagan feast day that they adopted for Christmas and that sort of stuff. And they just used those so everyone could celebrate at the same time, whether they're Christians or pagan.
Nice compromise.
So, no, it worked out because no one knows the exact dates.
No,
so they just assign dates.
The only person who would know the exact date of when he was
God
born.
only knows.
Yeah, that too.
But
they didn't have birth certificates back then.
They didn't have calendars.
That too.
They didn't have calendars. Mm-hmm. They had the phases of the moon, seasons. They had that sort of stuff. Yeah, they had summer, winter. They didn't have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And even if they did, they didn't have a calendar like, this is February, March, April, May.
So they didn't know how many months are in a year, or if there were.
That's why there's so much controversy about dates, ancient Egyptian dates, Christian dates, other dates there, because the Roman Catholic Church made, there's two calendars, I can't remember which one's which. There was a Gregorian calendar and a Julian calendar. One was the first one, and it wasn't perfect. And then the second one they made up was more in line and put the leap year into it. But the dates they made and the weeks, everything, it actually just gave the world a consistency so they can trade and do things a lot easier and have time factors which is relevant to everybody.
Interesting fact, guys. That I think either 3 or 2 of the Caesars, Emperor Caesars, had their names in, for those 1 or 2 of the particular months. Okay. I think Augustus Caesar would have been August, obviously. I don't know who the other ones 2 are. I'm not sure who those ones are.
I don't know. It's your story.
I'm just saying.
But they actually said the days of the week were named after the Roman god or something rather had. Or some of them Mars. Monday was Mars Day. Tuesday or Thursday was Thor's Day. That sort of stuff. Yeah. They used mythology names.
I get
it.
Kind of clever people. I mean, for their days.
Yeah.
Very smart.
But I think that was hearsay. I don't think the Christian guys in the Vatican or wherever the calendars are made up would actually use pagan names for the days.
True.
But Caesar, Augustus Caesar, yeah, it's a possibility, and other things.
Yeah. So, should we rate this movie, or do you have anything to add?
No, I'll give it a rating. I can't. Again, I usually do these on production value, acting value, and storyline. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give us only a 9.
Okay.
No, only reason being, I thought some of it was a little bit slow in some areas. It moved along quite well, but I would have appreciated, I would have liked a lot more if it was just a little bit faster paced. They could have put a little bit more into some of the quieter bits and stuff. But it's a good story. It's not an action thriller. It's a drama. So sometimes dramas can be a little bit slow for me. That's all. So I'm not knocking it for that, but I'm knocking a point off because it does, to me, drag just a little bit in some places.
Yeah.
Is that necessary? Could that have been a little more animated there? Could they have changed the dialogue to make the tab more interesting?
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think I would give it a 9.5 out of 10 myself. I thought it was pretty cool, especially the moment where the centurion approached Jesus and asked him. And I often wonder to myself, if I ever had the moment to ever meet God or Jesus face to face, and I'm just doing this really politely.
You're going to meet him one day.
Yeah.
You want to meet him
now? No, I just meant if I ever did meet him face to face, what kind of question would I ask him?
That would be a hard one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not getting into
I know, not a debate about this.
Theological discussion here.
Okay? I do think that for the creators who were trying to work out what would happen if another follower came along board, and this person represented the audience who's considering the soldier in this. He represents us up here.
Yeah, we had the guys who, the newbies.
Who just happened to walk in and Jesus called us brother or sister and said, "You're welcome to come in and talk to us or talk to me."
Anyway. Yeah, we're not doing
I know. I'm sorry, guys, but
if you want to start a spiritual podcast site, we'll do that later. At the moment, we're doing movies.
It does make it interesting.
Even though I don't mind talking about myself.
Because I do question what would happen if I did meet him, and what kind of question would I ask.
But time for reflection for all of us, maybe.
Yeah.
However, I think you should finish it now.
Okay.
Because we're doing a movie review, not a full theological podcast.
Just think, for those who are Christians or Catholics, just think about that.
But how about those people out? Or ones who maybe just drift away because they don't really believe anymore.
Good point.
You got to be mindful of those people. Maybe they're damaged goods. Maybe their time hasn't come. I don't know. But I'm not going to judge anybody. I'm not going to browbeat them with dialogue and rhetoric.
I know.
No.
But it does make you wonder what you would ask and what his answer would be, which is probably a lot of us have asked these sometimes. Anyway, I'm digressing again.
You always do. Yeah.
So, guys,
wait a minute,
can we get this on Amazon?
Yes, it is available. I checked eBay. There's plenty for sale. Amazon has it rentable and plenty for sale. Now, I did notice something. There is a sci-fi movie.
Oh, really?
2021. It's also called Risen. So be careful. Get the date right, which is 2016.
Yeah, and be sure to get the characters.
And if the cover has a Roman-looking guy on it, you've obviously got the right movie. The other one's got someone in something like a spacesuit, like one of those things they use when there's not spacesuit, when they use virus outbreaks or whatever. They put those sort of things which, like a volcanologist wears, there's isolate them from the disease and stuff. Yeah, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, this is
if
not
you got a Roman on the front, that's the right movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's Blu-ray and it's 4K, everything else. You can get a good, clean copy if you want it.
Yeah, it's so weird how many movies these days would often use this. Say a movie came out at the same time and they use the same title.
Well, similar. It's a name. It's only the same names you can have.
True.
Yeah, but just get onto the one. I was going to say
like the other day, I was trying to find a movie that I've been trying to find for ages. And every time I come across It's another movie out there is going by the same title, and it makes it a lot more harder to find.
And it's hard, yeah. When you get, especially the same year.
Especially it's the same year that came out.
I mean, come on? You said Dracula and Dracula or something, or hello?
Yeah.
Which one is it? Yeah, and you got to go looking for it. It makes it hard. But what I was going to say is, just getting back to, we've done 2 Christian movies just now. We're not going to do this all the time, but we thought about Easter time, it'd be a nice thing to do, okay?
Nice respectful thing to do.
No, very respectful. And at Christmas time, we did a Christmas
we did
didn't we?
the 10 Commandments, and let me see, we did another Moses movie called the
Exodus. Whatever.
Which was much more later on.
Yeah.
But we also did the Encounter too.
Yeah, the Encounter, yeah. So we do them occasionally. You know, we're not trying to sort of force our views on anybody, but we think they're good movies. So
yeah, I mean they do have something.
Our next podcast we'll probably go back to normal sci-fi or a slasher or something really good. Now, someone did complain about us not doing new releases. We're looking for some either this year or last year releases for our next podcast. I like to think. And next couple might be in our normal genre, sci-fi, horror, and or fantasy.
Yeah. Anyway, it's usually a good time to think about this sort of thing. So
yeah, Christmas time to me and Easter are a time of reflection. Even if you're not a dyed-in-the-wool Christian and stuff, and
it's time to reflect.
It's a time of reflection. Even those who are fringe dwellers and stuff. What's life all about? Am I heading in the right direction and stuff? And yeah, it's good. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's about it for us tonight, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this latest podcast.
And for those of you who are Christian or semi-Christian, ones who got a little bit sit on the fence, don't really are not very active in the faith. Look, it's time to have a reflection, maybe, because the world's getting harder and nastier. We need all the help we can get. So have a bit of reflection on it, and I hope you have a good life. How's that?
And for those who don't believe in the Jesus side, remember God does love you.
He believes in you.
Yeah, God does believe in you, and He loves you.
Yeah, and all the shit going on in the world is made by men, not by God. Okay.
Yeah, so don't get confused.
Yeah, and someone once told me in World War II they were referring to, I think, there's no atheists in the foxholes or in the trenches, because even the guys who weren't very practicing Christians started to pray, because that's all you got left at the end of the day. So yeah, think about it, guys. So that's about it for us tonight, guys. So feel free to check it out, and along with any of our podcast episodes. Yeah. Always good to backpedal and check out the other ones as much as you can. But we're going to surprise you with something really good next one. Sci-fi, horror, something really good. Or something in between. Or sci-fi horror. Yeah, whatever. So thanks for listening to our latest podcast, everyone. Guys. And we'll see you guys for the next one. So long, guys. Bye.